This bug found its way into my house. I don't know what this is. Look at that. Hold on, let me get my lens. Got my macro lens on. Let's see what this guy's face looks like. That's wild. Now, as of right now, this bug is doing something very similar to what I will be doing in this video.
Crawling. For fitness, of course.
Be free.
After a really long time of inconsistent training, I'm getting back on the fitness grind, and I'm looking to try something new as well. Since it's summer and I have a whole lot of free time, I'm trying to add some movement training work every morning. What is movement training? Well, I'm not the most well-versed in it, and I'm very much a beginner, but what it essentially is, it's training not for more strength, not for more flexibility, but instead for new movements. In the end, our bodies are meant to move, and there's an infinite amount of combinations that we could do that. Movement training looks to focus on the dynamicism of movement. Is that a word, dynamicism? You learn new movements and then you start to string them together in improvised flows. Movement training was mainly popularized by Ido Portal, so credit to him. And his system is the one that I'm trying to supplement into my training. I want to talk about the benefits of this method and what I've experienced with it so far. I'm also going to move it aside because it's getting really hot. I also want to mention before I begin that the Bioneer, who I've mentioned before on this channel, has a really good video on movement training. He goes more in depth about the science of it and why it's good for you. The way I use movement training is as a supplement to my normal training. And the reason I think it works really well as a supplement is because with traditional strength training, like let's say you're doing push-ups, right? Push-ups are a very repetitive movement and the goal is to do them basically the same each time. And what that could do is that could lock us into a certain movement pattern, whereas there's so many untapped movement patterns that you don't have experience with. When you're doing movement training, when you're crawling on the ground and doing the floreio stuff, floreio, I think that's how it's pronounced. You're filling in those holes. You're strengthening yourself in unconventional positions so that there isn't a position that you're weak in. It gives you a whole new level of versatility with what you can confidently, safely, strongly do with your body. Also, apparently learning new movements has benefits to your mental health and to your brain. Again, I won't go into the details of that because I don't know them very well, but I know that the Bioneer covers that in his video. Ido Portal also emphasizes that the movement training should be playful. You should be essentially playing when you're learning these new movements and stringing them together. Once you get far enough along in movement training, it starts to look like a dance, kind of, which kind of makes sense because it is highly inspired by capoeira. And it is fun. Crawling on the ground is fun. Bounding about like an ape is it's fun. The bounding like an ape thing isn't actually part of movement training, but it is fun. The way I've incorporated movement training, again, I'm using it as a supplement, is that I do it every morning for about 45 minutes. And again, I have a lot of free time, so I have the flexibility to add that in. And if you don't, you can cut that down even more for like 15 minutes of it. And it's really great because it gets my body loosened early in the morning and it lets me get a lot of sunlight in the morning, which is really good for your circadian rhythm. I forgot to mention that movement training is heavily based on improving mobility. I felt really good improvements to my hip mobility while doing this. Another possible benefit of movement training is that it can make you better at other modalities like dance and martial arts. There are some movements that come up again and again in movement systems all across the world just because they work well for humans. Movement training looks to find those human movements and get you really good at them. And then, once you've filled in all those gaps, now you're a movement generalist who can pick up new skills really quick. That's all that I have to say about movement training today. I need to do some more research, but what I do know is that I enjoy it a lot and I felt a lot of benefit from it. If you're interested in giving it a go, I would suggest that you look at the Bioneer's video on it and that you go to Antranik's floreio website where he's basically just read a whole bunch of Ido Portal's blogs and compiled it into one place to make a routine. That's the main thing that I've been following.